8:33 here in the morning on Wadsworth Community Radio. Friday morning here outside our studios. It is 68 degrees here, and the sun may be starting to peek out a little bit. It's supposed to be decent later on today, which we hope, since we're all going to be spending the day on the golf course, correct?
Well, I needed you to start this thing today a little bit later. See, the little one's napping. That's right in the middle of his nap, Mark Arnold. So what are we going to do about that? How long will it go on?
It will go on. We probably will not exit the golf course till probably about 6:15, and then we'll have our little banquet and then the awards, and so it'd be a perfect time.
Okay, you're right. I have some time. Well, we should tell our listeners who is in the studio with us. First of all, we have champion Brian Oglesby from Georgia in the blind golf tournament. And then, I guess, runner-up, second place, last. I'm not sure how you want to say it, but Mark Arnold is also here again.
Best of the worst.
Mark, you're such a good sport. And we have retired U.S. Army Specialist Jason Brasse with us. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Well, if I could ask our champion Brian first, would like to talk to you about how the tournament went and if it was pretty soggy out there or not.
It was very soggy out there, especially the first day. Played the first 5 or 6 holes in a steady drizzle. Very different trying to play in the rain on a course that you don't know a whole lot about, and playing with your eyes closed, you tend to not hit the ball very solid in the rain.
So gave didn't seem like it impacted you too much. You did win.
I kept it together. I have just a fabulous coach. My brother Alex, who coaches me, he made a lot of decisions for me. When I would pull a club out, he'd say, "Hey, it's wet, it's raining, you're not hitting that club, give it back." And he would grab another club, and then, after a second or third time I tried that, he said, "You're hard-headed, aren't you?" And he being the younger brother, that makes it even funnier that he says that. But he did a great job of coaching me around the golf course and keeping me out of the really, really wet stuff.
So you won the B1 division.
I did.
And what did you shoot? What overall?
Well, it was points on the first day.
Okay.
And Stableford points, and I had 24 points first day. And then the second day, we come back, the top 2 point getters from the day one come back and play in a straight match play, just play hole by hole. Okay. And I won 6 holes with 4 to play.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Which is a landslide.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Just to let everybody know, that's put the rest of you on the curb, right? So good. Well, Jason, welcome to our studios here this morning, and if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and start out maybe with your story of what brought you with the Wounded Warriors.
Sure.
Little bit of your.
So I am served in the United States Army. I was fortunate enough to go to Iraq in 2004 and had an amazing time there, really helping rebuild the country. Had a blast while I was in Iraq, to say the least. Was actually hit by a roadside bomb about a year into my deployment. Took multiple surgeries, more than a dozen in total, years of rehab. And, it was really, in the end, the physical injuries were tough and traumatic, but the mental injuries were really what were plaguing my life. And it wasn't until Wounded Warrior Project stepped into my life that I found that camaraderie that was needed to accept and overcome a lot of the mental injuries that I had come home with. They helped me develop coping mechanisms, got me in touch with a peer mentor, essentially just another warrior who had walked the same steps as me and come out the other side, and that kind of became my life coach. He kept me on track, kept identifying the triggers in my life, and helped me to start thriving instead of just surviving.
Well, the one thing that the people don't realize that haven't been over there in those situations, I mean, you come back here and somebody cuts you off or turns left in front of you or something along those lines. Well, when that happened in Iraq, it was because they were shooting at you.
Correct.
It's a different. You're reacting to stressful situations in your life, but stressful situations here meant that your sticker wasn't on your cucumbers at Giant Eagle, and over there a stressful situation meant you might not go home with a limb.
Yeah,
I mean, it
correct.
was, and
might not go home.
Home, period. Correct. And
yeah.
so that's one of the things that people that. You can't, by not being there, you can't imagine what it is to do, because you deal with that on a minute-to-minute basis, a day-to-day basis.
And we train hard for it so that it becomes muscle memory, to where you're not even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You come home and there is no detraining to unlearn all these things that you spent years and years learning. Mannerisms that kept you safe and sane over there actually quite literally kill you here.
Mm-hmm.
For me in particular, it was kind of a hyper-awareness was really bad for me. Constantly scanning everybody's hands to see if they had a weapon or a trigger device. Just never being able to feel safe and comfortable. Always my head on a swivel, looking for the threats that are out there all around me. And, that's walking around in this country, we have freedom and all this opportunity. It's safe and secure. Yet I still felt like I was in a wartime environment. And then to top all that off, I had nobody watching my back. So I felt incredibly alone, and everybody that was around me was a civilian. They couldn't relate to how I was feeling. It really was a devastating time in my life until, I started to reconnect with fellow warriors that had similar circumstances. And together we were able to have a common goal and work towards it together. Wounded Warrior Project facilitated events for us to also get out and receive love and respect from our civilian, our community. And that's where I can tell you a lot of things started to click for me. I started to realize that my sacrifices were worth it. Every time somebody would tell me thank you for my service or welcome home, it started to add up. And over the years, it got to the point where, now I can say I have no regrets. I would do it again. Freedom was worth it. Freedom for my nation was worth it for sure.
I think you're being incredibly humble because you are a Purple Heart recipient, correct?
Correct.
And what you went through, I was listening to part of your speech recently at Fordham University, and you were talking about the importance of donating blood.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. When I was wounded, I had severed the arteries in my lower part of my leg, so obviously I was losing a lot of blood. I lost all the blood in my body, a full body and a half's worth of blood within the first 24 hours. So we did the math, and it easily took the donations of more than 25 Americans to keep me alive that first day alone. And, in my mind, I'm just thinking of this. None of my own blood left in my body. I'm completely being kept alive by my American, by my fellow Americans here. And so, yeah, I really do press upon people, please, if you can donate blood, if you ever have, or if you've had any hesitations about doing it, please get over them. Go out there. The need is so high, and be a true lifesaver in my eyes.
This was a perspective shift for me when I heard you say that. It really, really drove home. My husband donates blood. Tom has donated, I think, 17 gallons.
Holy cow, Tom.
over his
That's
life.
amazing.
So he's definitely a big proponent of this, too. Want to ask you quite literally how you're able to stand here today, because doctors said that may not have been the case.
Yeah. So, I was hit by this piece of shrapnel, and it shattered the bone, my lower leg, including the bone that was in my knee joint. I had just an amazing team of doctors at Walter Reed, 16 doctors in particular, who put this plan together and were able to piece all those bones back together, fill the hole, cut half of my calf muscle for soft tissue. The skin needs soft tissue to grow on. Took some skin from my thigh and put that over it. These amazing men, I'm telling you, just an incredible day and age in which we live in. And it actually brings up one point that I love to bring up, and that's just simply, had I been wounded 100 years ago, I would have only had a 10% chance of surviving these injuries. And we actually did this research of the wars over the last 100 years, and they found that we walked into World War II with that same 10% survivability rate.
Wow.
And things got better, and we actually left at 40%. Well, we walked into Vietnam with that same 40% survivability rate. Things got better. We left at 70. Believe it or not, we walked into Iraq and Afghanistan with a 70% survivability rate in the beginning. But today, things have gotten so good, 93% of those that are being wounded are making it home. A doctor actually told me if they had contents in their cranium and a heartbeat, that he was able to save them. And that really just goes to show you it's just the medical advancements are so amazing. But then we also have this massive population of wounded veterans who are coming home and continuing to live with both their physical and mental injuries.
And the sad part about that is that it took wars for us to get that far,
to make that progress.
To make that progress.
Right.
I'm not saying that the medical progress wouldn't have been there, but that's the other side of that coin, that it unfortunately took that fighting for us to get that far. But
yeah, life has its balance, though. You're always going to have your good with the bad, and so those are definitely the things from this war that we need to grasp onto and make sure stay solid. The better things that have come from it, like the medical advancements and our awareness now of PTSD and traumatic brain injuries, and we recognize the effects that it has on these people long term. So.
Well, like you mentioned too, and again, you're trained from the day you go into the military to, like you said, to look for this or that, or even like going back like a Secret Service agent, scanning the crowd all the time,
right?
And to come back and to go into normal life and to deal with people. People don't realize that they
right.
From sitting on this side of the microphone, that's just not something that you're cognizant of,
right.
and it's not that no one cares or anything like that. It's just you need to have that awareness. You know?
Do. And we need to come together to overcome these issues as well. Because one-on-one, they are just incredibly daunting. But from what I've experienced in my life, I tell this all to people all the time, as long as we come together, there's no problem out there that we can't solve. And it is pretty amazing, because that's exactly what I've felt through Wounded Warrior Project, is just my entire nation has fueled this organization. Passionate and dedicated people facilitate these events for the Warriors to come together, and they don't really have to do much more from that point other than point them in the right direction, give them a common goal, and they make the progress themselves just by coming together. So.
Now, the Wounded Warrior Project is relatively new, correct? What, 2005, 6, somewhere in that era?
About 2003, things started to go,
right.
But really the money wasn't coming in until
right.
about 2005.
Okay.
And since then they've sent out a survey to these warriors. That survey clearly identified the holes and the gaps in the system, the issues they were suffering with. And that's how Wounded Warrior Project's been able to develop one program after another, 20 in total right now, cost-free programs for these warriors, helping them transition to the civilian world. With great success, too.
And that's what I was going to ask you, is what has the Wounded Warrior Project given back to you? I mean, the broad answer is probably life. Okay,
yeah, my freedom 100%. I was an introvert. I'd locked myself in my house, was drowning in the bottle every day, and completely alone. I didn't feel like anybody around me understood what was going on until they really did step in and start impacting my life. It was like a light switch coming on. As soon as I start to recognize some of my issues, I stopped dwelling on the past and started to put together a future for myself, which was completely unforeseen prior to that.
And Tina, there's that thread too that we heard with Devin, with Mark Sharon and Devin Shea coming in, where he was in here and again, I only saw Devin probably once a year when he came in for the blind golf tournament or whatever, but seeing someone a year apart like that, it was like, whoa! It was just like you saw that progress, and his coming back, and being with him every day, or probably more as Mark was with him. It was a gradual thing, but with me only seeing him once a year, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like a different person.
See his confidence level spike.
Right, and these stories that we're hearing, they're just one right after another. So it's awesome.
Wanted to ask you, Jason, how you came to Wadsworth, because you're from Tampa, and the blind golf tournament. Obviously, the blind golf tournament benefits the Wounded Warrior Project, so I know there's that tie. But is there another one?
Currently, I can tell you, Mark Arnold here is the main tie. Mm-hmm. He was greatly influenced by a couple of veterans, I believe, alumni of Wounded Warrior Project, and it's just amazing because these men live with disabilities, and yet they are choosing to raise money for our nation's veterans, and it is really kind of a common theme, I guess. This American Blind Golf Association, these golfers wouldn't be able to golf if it wasn't for the support they receive from their coaches. And that's exactly what Wounded Warrior Project is doing. These warriors can't move forward unless we give them these resources like life coaches and that assistance that they need, the support they need to make sure they're hitting that ball straight.
It's like the parallel worlds, worlds, right?
Very parallel worlds, and it's just amazing to meet some of them because not once have they complained or griped about their disability, whatever you want to call it, and that's exactly what we try and get our warriors to, that point where they no longer see it as a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. It can just be a better way to find, a better perspective on life. Even they're capable of actually finding this better perspective because of it.
Right, and again, a lot of the things they've been able to do was because of what everyone else determines to be a handicap, but for them it wasn't.
Right.
For a lot of them, like we talked last night, there were people out there where it turns out that their sight was their handicap. They became quote unquote free when they developed a disability that we determined a disability, but it's not.
Right.
It's how you handle it, and it sounds like a Hallmark card, but it's not.
Right.
It works.
Right. We were talking about this like if Helen Keller wasn't blind.
Right. What would she have accomplished? Well, not nearly what she did when she was blind.
Right.
Again, whether can you change the world? Absolutely.
Right.
And going back to Helen Keller, and it's not saying that that's what she would have wished for,
right.
But since it happened, you make the best out of
Indeed.
what you're given.
Right.
And so, if we could pass the mic to Brian, I'd like to just say, is that how it works for you? Is that how it works for you too? I guess tell me your motivation to keep doing things that you want to do and not let any impairment impair you.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I think that losing my sight actually made me a better person. I have determined that I can't find anything that I want to do that I can't still do. I have to do things differently, yes, but the thing that I try to show everyone, but most especially show the students that I teach in my classrooms, is it doesn't matter how we do it, it's that we do it.
And that's what I was going to ask you. You said you teach?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, in a school or just as like a motivational speaker?
Actually, both.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I've been a classroom teacher in a regular ed environment, social studies, for the last 11 years at the high school level, and a little over a year ago, I was encouraged to finally get out and start doing some motivational speaking. And that is the main theme of my standard speech, is that I call it my vision without sight. I want to convince everyone that we all have things that hinder us, whether you call it a disability or what you may call it. We all have something there, and it's how we overcome it is what makes us the person that we are.
Well, I can't
Wow.
sum that up any better, truthfully. You guys, everyone who's come in here associated with Wounded Warrior Project, with Blind Golf, and even beyond have been so inspirational, really helps shift my perspective and, show me some areas to work on myself and ways to give back even more. So I think that you guys are both so brave and just inspirational. Now I know Mark had some final thoughts to share. Is that right?
I would love to if I can.
Go right ahead.
You may not. I'm just kidding.
Go right ahead.
I live here. This is my second home.
Yeah.
Wait, we turned your mic off.
It couldn't have been more perfect for what I wanted to just wrap up the week with, but the word challenge just came up and the challenges that Jason has faced, the challenges that Brian has faced, I think is what is the common bond actually between American Blind Golf and Wounded Warrior Project. It is a kind of a marriage made in heaven. And along those lines, I've been holding something the whole time that I wanted to show Tina, and I'm going to ask Jason to make a comment first, and then I'll end it. But Tom is aware of them, but probably the most cherished possession I have is a Wounded Warrior Challenge coin. And I wanted Jason just maybe to explain a little bit what challenge coins are, and maybe say something to Tina.
Sure.
And then I'll wrap it up.
Within the military, if you go above and beyond, and you truly do show your integrity or selflessness, you're rewarded with a challenge coin, and each higher leadership makes their own coin, but in the end, it only goes to somebody who's really proven themselves dedicated and strong, and really excelled above the rest. Mark here definitely deserves that coin. It looks a little beat up. I think he's been carrying it in his pocket for a couple of years now. But I can say it's a true honor to receive one of those, and it is very well deserving with Mark here.
Well, thanks for those comments, and along those lines, I wouldn't say authority, because that's not the right word, but Devin has given me some at my disposal, and we had a discussion. So I've been wanting to make Tina cry. So Jason,
are you serious? That'd be my pleasure.
For the week's
yeah.
work. And Tom, I have one for you. Devin and I could not remember if he gave you one.
No, I didn't. No.
So there
my
are
God.
two of them.
Awesome. Well, it's my pleasure to present these to you. Thank you so much for all you've done for raising
gosh.
awareness for us, the support of American Blind Golf and Wounded Warrior Project. Absolutely vital, I can tell you. Absolutely vital to...
Well, thanks for that.
Oh my gosh.
I should have turned his mic off.
Well, Devin gave me the 3rd degree, and he said, you have a few at your disposal, and I need to know what you do with them. These are not handed out willy-nilly.
Oh my
so
gosh!
I want you very much
yeah, I
to
don't
honor
even feel
those.
deserving of it at all, but I'm honored.
Yeah.
And a little bit
Thank you
speechless.
very much.
You guys, thank you. Really.
Awesome.
No, yeah, there's other than thank you for, I mean, it was really an honor, and I can't say anything. I mean, that's awesome. Thank you very much.
You're out of a job if you're speechless.
Yeah.
I forgot. Let's keep talking. Can we bring someone else in to finish it for us?
Because again, I'm aware of these. I have my son's in the military, so I'm very very well aware of what they mean, and again, they're not handed out like tokens at the fair. They're not handed out. Oh, hey, let's do this, let's do that. You know, it was
right.
No, they're not. And I really appreciate. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you too.
Thank you for
Thanks, Tina.
taking time to be with us and to help others and to inspire others. You know, I'm supposed to be able to like pinch myself for something to make it stop, but I can't. So on that note, it is 8:57 on a Friday morning here on Wadsworth Community Radio. We're going to play a song, and then we'll get to Joe Jastrzemski with news.
News and information about Wadsworth for Wadsworth. 97.1 Wadsworth Community Radio.
WWWRLP, Wadsworth.
And streaming worldwide at wadsworthcommunityradio.com.